stack, the word stack, and type your question, right? So stack, S-T-A-C-K, at the start of your typed question once we get to the Q&A portion. Similar questions will be skipped so that we can answer as many different questions as possible that might apply to the broader attendance. We ask you to please keep your questions brief and avoid personal commentary. This will help us get to as many voices as possible and be able to answer as many questions as possible. And this courtesy on your part will really help make this possible. Your official in-chat question responders are Kathy Melvin, Chris Klaus, Chris Garza, myself, Kit Bell, and Alma S., and Megan Kaluza. They will help to provide clarifying information and links and resources. Please watch for those names and use the resources they link in at any point during the presentation. Here's our agenda on the screen. I outlined some of these in my statement earlier. This is the order we will be going in. And we need to advise you that we will be recording just the presentation parts of the meeting tonight. The Q&A sections will not be recorded, just the presentation parts. Now, I'm happy to welcome you to this event and to welcome Susan Solomon to open us up. Take it away, Susan.
All right. Thank you very much, Cassandra Curiel. And I am Susan Solomon, President of United Educators of San Francisco. And it's great to see so many UESF members here for our second informational meeting about the in-person and hybrid instruction MOU for the spring of 2021. So when we began this process, we had this process that seemed endless for a while there. We had two main goals in arriving at this tentative agreement. One was to achieve the safest standards we could to keep our students, communities, and staff, all of us, safe. And we did that through the health and safety MOU with all the other unions, as well as our own hybrid and in-person MOU. Our other goal was to make sure that there are continued job opportunities, meaning no layoffs of UESF members. Paraeducators are particularly vulnerable to layoffs since the notification timeframe is so short for them, unlike teachers. And this MOU does assure work for paraeducators. It also increases job opportunities for substitutes, the great majority of whom have been underemployed and unemployed for the duration of the pandemic. Those were our hallmarks, our North Stars. And in this MOU, we have achieved these goals. Another goal which really crystallized during negotiations and as a result of our own surveys was a goal that we always hold dear, and that's how to keep our students at the center of what we do. In several ways, it was actually clear during negotiation that the district wasn't doing that as much as they should have been. The district's original proposal had students switching teachers, teachers switching students, class sizes increasing, and new combination classes being created. Teachers are going to be expected to teach students who aren't on their roster, and for their students to be taught by other teachers, while the teacher of record still would be responsible for grades, parent conferences, and everything else for the students on their original roster. Now that students will remain with the teachers they've had all year, based on input from UESF, the district's actually taking credit for this concept, which is exactly what they said at their press conference on Monday. As we heard at the Board of Education meeting last night, and as many of you are hearing from your sites and from each other, you're hearing that the bargaining team agreed to the current schedule being offered to families. So this is actually not true. The very, very last sentence of the agreed upon MOU between UESF and SFUSD clearly states, and I'm quoting, descriptions of student instructional schedules provided in this paragraph as Appendix A to this MOU, they're not even an appendix yet, are the schedules resulting from the consultation process. Now, this is a point that the district made to us repeatedly, to the bargaining team, and to all the dedicated bargaining team members. We were only consulting on the schedules. We weren't bargaining. They made it clear that they asserted their right not to have to bargain over them. And actually, legally, they're correct. So in more normal times, the example would be, we don't negotiate about what time of day school starts and what time of day school ends. And so we did consult you, as you probably heard, if you were at the board meeting last night, we consulted with them for a long time about the schedule. But we also made it clear the schedule belongs to the district. It was not jointly bargained. The MOU, which doesn't include the schedules, is a negotiated agreement that belongs to both parties. So, I mean, the truth is, crisis distance learning has been hard all year. You've all done so much, so much to make it enjoyable and accessible to kids and their families. So what we have done and what took a very long time, this MOU took a very long time to bargain. Again, we wanted to keep centered that we needed everybody to feel safe and that we have what the tools and equipment we need to provide a quality education for our students. We can be proud of achieving some of the best contract and safety protections in California for schools during the pandemic. Our fight has been and continues to be political and politicized. We are still fighting over in an ongoing way against the forces of privatization and through for-profit charter school organizations and corporations. Some of the pushback that we've heard about why aren't you opening schools? Why can't you open schools like private schools are open? That's part of that discourse. A strong MOU is part of the fight for quality union public education. And in spite of what the mayor and the Chronicle have gone on and on about, including today in the Chronicle, we're not the reason that schools aren't open. The pandemic and years of inequitable funding for public education are the reasons that we are where we are. The pandemic and a failure of certainly the previous federal administration to address a crisis has made the problem far, far worse. We've seen a monumental failure of leadership, but through it all, we held the line on a safe reopening of school buildings. So it is definitely important to acknowledge that the work that's going to be done at schools that will be open starting on April 12th, according to the district, is going to be hard. The work is going to continue to be hard. It won't be for very long, but it's still going to be hard. And so I know we're all going to do all that we can to make it as good as we can for our students. And next week, we're already back to the bargaining table. And after for vulnerable students to return to school, you'll be hearing more details about more bargaining coming up, summer school next year. So with that, we need the next slide, please. So what you see here is a timeline. It's certainly not the whole timeline, especially when we consider everything have negotiated in the last year. We've never done as much negotiating in that time frame ever, I think, as we've done now. Right before school shut down, we had just launched our contract campaign, and we had to fight back against layoffs that we heard might be happening last February. And then that was right as we were going into lockdown. Then we transitioned to negotiating our first crisis distance learning MOU. No one was prepared for a pandemic, and it's been a long road to get to where we are now. One of the great highlights has been partnering with the other unions of SFUSD to win one of the best health and safety agreements in the state, as I mentioned earlier. That partnership and solidarity actually started before the pandemic. We knew we'd be stronger together. It's going to continue to be necessary to keep us all on the same page and keep our school sites safe as we do begin to transition into this hybrid model. So once we had the agreement on the health and safety MOU, I'd say we went back to negotiating our hybrid learning agreement, although we had done some of it before as well. So I'm excited today that we're all able to be here and share the progress we were able to make. We have continued to lead the way and push for the best agreement through this process for educators, staff, students, all of us, and our communities as well. So I'm now going to pass this off to school psychologist Brittany O'Connor. So she will be walking us through the hybrid learning agreement. Thank you. I'm sorry, she's walking us through the health and safety tentative agreement.
I think that's Diana. Go for it, Diana.
Oh, okay, Diana. Apologies. Hi, Diana.
I am a special education paraeducator.
We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Okay, is this better? Okay, thank you. All right, so on February 6th, together with all the other unions of SFUSD, we signed a tentative agreement outlining the strong health and safety measures we need for a safe reopening. It requires the district to comply with the full spectrum of scientific guidance. It mandates that the district meet monthly with our new UESF Health and Safety Committee to ensure that they are following our agreement. On vaccines, in the red tier, all school staff must have access to vaccines before returning, or else we will only return once we are in the orange tier. And it provides for paid time off from work to get vaccinated and up to 5 days of paid sick leave to recover from any possible side effects. This policy should be in effect now. Return to work is required only after the recommended full course of the vaccine has been administered and verified. Contact tracing. Our agreement includes the most robust contact tracing program that the Department of Public Health can provide and connects Department of Public Health directly to our school sites for their support. Testing. The district must provide COVID testing for all staff and students who are assigned to return to school and to work sites. In the red, excuse me, in the red tier, the district must continue testing staff and student at least every 2 weeks. In the orange tier and yellow tier, the district must continue testing staff and students, but for fewer people. Now I'm going to pass it over to Megan. Nope. Do I continue on the next part, physical distancing?
Yes, one more slide.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone. Health screening. Anyone who steps foot in a school site must be first screened for COVID symptoms. If a staff member or student does not pass the screening or gets sick during the day, they will be sent home immediately and wait in an isolation area before leaving. Physical distancing outside the classroom. The agreement requires 6 feet of physical distancing outside of the classroom. Okay, now I think my turn is over and I'm going to hand it over to Hayal. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Jael Castro. I am a 4th grade teacher at Buena Vista Horace Mann, and I'm going to walk you through the rest of the health and safety TA. So here we're looking at proper protection equipment. In terms of masks, surgical and cloth masks will be made available to staff. Everyone, except students with documented medical conditions, must wear a mask at all times on campus. All necessary proper protection equipment will be provided to specialized staff, such as face shields, gloves, and gowns. Hand washing stations, paper towels, tissues, hand sanitizer, and disinfectant wipes will also be easily accessible to you. Next slide, please. Now on to ventilation. The district agreed to follow the ASHRAE, which stands for the American Society of Heating, refrigerating, and air conditioning engineers. So this guidance was used on ventilation as outlined by the California Department of Public Health. This is actually a very high set of standards brought to the all unions negotiations by the Union of Operating Engineers. Also in cleaning, this will be happening on a strict daily, weekly, and as needed basis with special COVID disinfection protocols. Every classroom, every bathroom, and every workroom will have cleaning and disinfecting supplies in it. So this agreement will actually expire on July 31st, 2022. So this will only be in effect until then. Why? Well, this will ensure we will not need to negotiate a new health and safety MOU, which is time consuming and could needlessly delay in-person instruction in the fall if COVID is still prevalent. However, we still reserve the right to meet with the district and make updates as needed if the science gets updated or if we are learning from all of you that changes need to be made. So, be on the lookout if we're looking for feedback so we can always go back and make this stronger if we have to, or less. And now for vaccine access. We have continued to advocate for a plan from the city that is coordinated with the district that would give a clear roadmap for how SF educators and school staff could access vaccines. As it stands now, access codes have been sent to 4,000 SFUSD employees, including Wave 1 and Wave 2 educators and staff. We will also continue to push the district and city to prioritize getting vaccinations in the coming weeks through a coordinating campaign with other SFUSD unions. We will share details and toolkits as soon as they are available. Because of our health and safety MOU, SFUSD staff can now schedule a vaccine appointment during work hours without loss of pay. In addition, if you experience illness as a side effect of receiving the vaccine, you also are eligible to take up to 5 days off without requiring that you use leave banks or accrued leave. In the slide, you will find a resource doc that might be helpful to you, a UESF survey we put out to try to understand how effective the codes have been in helping folks get vaccinated, and also a link to the vaccination sick leave policy. So make sure you get these slides in the chat soon, and you can click on these links. Next slide, please. So now for the ratification process, what's next? Where's the voting going? This week, we are going to be ratifying both this agreement, the TA on health and safety, and also the hybrid learning agreement that we will talk about in a little bit. This is the second informational meeting. At the end of the 8 p.m. meeting tonight, we will email out a link with instructions about how voting will work. So be on the lookout for that email. The voting link will be live from 10 p.m. on Wednesday through Saturday at 12 p.m. So please encourage everyone at your sites to vote this week. I also want to make sure we point out that we are not voting on the schedules. Again, this is only on the 2 TAs, the TA on health and safety and the TA on hybrid learning. So thank you for listening to me today. Now I'm going to hand it off to Sean, who is going to walk us through how our Q&A process will work.
Hello. It is Q&A in time. So please submit your questions on the health and safety MOU